I just released version 3.0 of my super popular picture-in-picture effect for Final Cut Pro. This is of course a free update to anybody who has previously purchased this plugin, and if you purchase the plugin right now, you'll continue to get lifetime updates forever. Installing this plugin and or the update is ridiculously easy. You'll just open up the downloaded folder, and in here you'll see the installer. Just double click that, then accept the end user license agreement, then from there press install. Once you've done that, you can push OK and quit, and it will be installed properly in Final Cut Pro. If you're having any trouble, go ahead and open up the troubleshooting guide, and that will walk you through some steps for getting the picture-in-picture effect to show up in Final Cut Pro. To get access to this plugin, just head on over to your effects, then scroll down until you see FCB's picture-in-picture effect. And this is where you can see the updates taking place. For one, I've updated the theme so you can clearly see the version number here at the top. So if you're ever wondering what version of picture-in-picture you are on, make sure you just check that number. Secondly, I've made all of these effects 4K ready and HDR ready. What does that mean? Well, while they did work previously on HDR and 4K projects, now if you come down here to your search tools, you can click here and select 4K, and they will continue to show up in your browser. And lastly, you may have noticed that all of the thumbnails have been updated to be much more modern, vibrant, and readable. Let's dive into the actually fun features of the update. So let's drag in the FCB's picture-in-picture effect. And just like before, you have super easy access to these on-screen controls, which you can move around. You can, of course, scale down your effect and move it into, say, the top right corner. Then you also have your offset control here on the left-hand side. To get further control, we'll just head on over here and press show on our picture-in-picture effect. And you will see that we have an enormous amount of controls, which I'm not going to get into all of them. I'm just going to show you some of the updated features. The first feature in this list is that I've increased the animation length from 1 second to 1.5 seconds. You might be wondering why it's not longer than 1.5 seconds. Well, there's a whole lot of conflicts and stuff that happen behind the scenes. And so this is just kind of the best middle ground I could come up with. That animation is going to directly affect if we were to press build in and then drag up the animation speed up to 1.5 seconds. Now, if I push play, we should have a nice 1.5 second animation going to the top right corner. Now, I'm not crazy about seeing the background elements here on my video, so I'm going to come over here to the right side and select extend video edges. This isn't a new feature, but it is a handy feature. So now everything should look really natural. The next feature in this list is you can change the scale of your rectangles, both the vertical and horizontal versions. So what I mean by that is let's just change the shape type over to rectangle, and you'll notice this new rectangle size option. So if I drag that up, our rectangle is going to increase in scale, but additionally, we can expand this out, and you can individually adjust both the width and the height of your rectangle. Now, if you select the vertical version, the width and height are going to be flipped because it's just the same rectangle flipped sideways. So now if you want to adjust the height, you'll just adjust the width. I know it's not perfect 100% beautiful UI, but you get the idea. Hopefully that helps. Another super exciting feature is you can now rotate all of your picture-in-picture effects in 3D space. To do so, you'll just come down to the rotation tool and expand that out, and you now have access to the X, Y, and Z rotations. So let's just rotate this on the Y axis, and we can bring that in a little bit closer. Then I can go ahead and offset that and even scale it up. So this just gives additional flexibility to how your picture-in-picture presents on screen, and of course it animates into that position automatically whenever you use the animation tools here at the top. Alongside the rotation though is the ability to shear your shapes. So if I expand this out, you can see we have X and Y, and I can go ahead and just shear this on both of those axes. And what this does is it gives you additional flexibility with your shapes. It makes it so you can make them even more customizable, which I really like. This shear effect will also apply if you were to use, say, the drop zone shape, which can be a custom shape to whatever you want. The next part of this plugin is just a lot of additional on-screen controls have been added just to make your workflow that much smoother. So what I mean by that is if we were to take a look here at the border, let's expand the width so you can clearly see what's happening. And I'm going to select stroke type and change it over to gradient. Right now, we're not in a very good spot for our gradient. If I move this over, we can see the gradient kind of taking place here. But what we can do is select show gradient controls, and now I can very easily set up my gradient to exactly where I want it. You can expand out your gradient further and go ahead and just adjust the coloring And so this just makes it really simple to get these gradients working within your scene exactly as you want them to be. So now that I've covered everything that's going on here inside of the picture-in-picture effect, I want to start to take a look at some of the other amazing effects and animations I've added. Firstly, we'll take a look at some of the new animations. So we can add in this pip animations, and if I push play, you'll see that our picture-in-picture effect is popping out from the center. And that center is because we have an anchor point here right in the middle. So if I were to change that, we can place the anchor point directly on my shape, and it'll pop from its center right there in the top right corner. Additionally, we could have it come from the top left. So this anchor point is a brand new feature, and I really love how this enables a lot more control over your animations. Plus, I've added in an additional animation of page curl in. And when you activate this, it gives you on-screen controls. I'm a big fan of on-screen controls apparently. And you can adjust how this page curl effect is, and I'm actually going to slow it down so we can really see it taking place. So pushing play, we have this nice little animation, and it looks like we get a sticker here on our clip. But those aren't all of the animations I've added. In fact, I've also added a whole bunch of subtle animations, and those are in a different effect. You can find them right here under the subtle effects. And you'll see it's very simple to apply. I'll push play, and it has this nice fade in and blur effect. I really love how professional this particular effect looks. And you can even change the direction it comes from. So let's say we want it to start from the left, and we want it to end by going to the right. Slides in beautifully, and then it slides out. And the third animation type is a really powerful one, and it doesn't just apply to the picture-in-picture effect. You can actually apply this animation to anything. So I've reset everything about my picture-in-picture effect so it's right in the center. You don't have to do this, but I think this just clearly shows what's possible. From there, let's apply the quick move effect. You should immediately notice that we have two on-screen controls. The one on the left is point A, the one on the right is point B. If you ever get it confused, you can always come up here and select Show A and B, and now you can very clearly see those. Now just make sure that you disable Show A and B before rendering or exporting out your project because those will be baked in. So let's move back to the very beginning of our animation, and you'll see that this is the first starting point, and we want to change where we end up at point B. So I'll move forward, and let's just say we want to go to the top right corner. I could also scale this down, just like so. Next, I want to move to the bottom right corner. So let's create a cut with Command B. Then we're going to change the direction from A to B over to B to A, and we'll make sure the quick move is selected so we get the on-screen controls, and we could just move this point down to the bottom right corner. And moving forward in our animation, we can see how it slides into place just like that. Finally, let's have it reset back to its original position. I'm going to create yet another cut. We'll select our clip, and then we're going to change the direction from B to A over to A to default. Default being the original position it was. So we went from B to A to default. And so now if we push play on everything, it should go to the top right, and then it'll slide to the bottom right, and then go back to the center over 2 seconds. So this makes it really easy to get your picture-in-picture effect out of the way of, say, an on-screen element, or maybe some text, graphic, whatever you need. Now, there is a specific reason that I didn't apply the next effect that I'm going to talk about, that being the Border Glow Pro, because after we have created all of these animations with these cuts, you're going to want to throw everything into a compound clip. So you could just right-click, and then select New Compound Clip. And now that it's in a compound clip, we can apply the next effect, that being Border Glow Pro. I previously had a Border Glow effect, and that's now found in this Legacy theme, but I've made a bunch of improvements to make the animation much smoother and much more professional. So I've gone ahead and removed all of the quick move animations just for clarity's sake, but if your clip was inside of a compound clip, it would still receive all of these same benefits of Border Glow Pro. To apply Border Glow Pro, it's just another effect. We'll apply that right on there. And if we push play, you should immediately see this beautiful glowing animation of the border glow. And it's just pulsing through the separate colors I've chosen. Let's hide FCB's picture-in-picture. And you can see right here all of the controls we have access to. Firstly, I've added in this fade in, fade out option. And why this is important is if my clip was going to animate from full screen, when fade in, fade out is not active, you can immediately see the glowing border edge. But if we check this, it's going to fade in over time, which is going to make it look a lot more professional. Additionally, we can come down and change the colors of our gradient to whatever you like, although I really like these colors. But we can also select Show Gradient Controls and adjust this gradient. So let's say we want this to go to the bottom right corner just like so, and we can push play and now it's all coming up from that corner. You can also change the gradient type over to this outline gradient, and I'm going to increase the width so you can clearly see this. So pushing play now, you can see how it's pulsing through that outline in a really cool and interesting way. I'm going to set this back to the regular gradient. And if we move further down, you'll notice that you have full control over the animation speed. So I could just really ramp that up and pushing play. Now it's blinking like crazy. And this is going to be based off the duration of your particular clip. So if you have a super long clip, you might need to set this animation speed up pretty quickly. This is just a limitation with Motion to Final Cut. I don't have time to get into that. But let's set this back to a value of say 150 for this short clip so it looks nice and slow. And you can also increase the number of repeats. So I'll just drag this way up so you can get a good idea of what's going on. And now you can see the repeating gradient through our outline. And if we move further down in Border Glow Pro, you should see this border only option. So if you've ever wanted to hide your face and you use this as say an outline for something on screen, you just check that box. And now we can go ahead and adjust our picture-in-picture effect, and we have this great little outline that we can place anywhere that's nicely animated. And the very last effect I want to show with Border Glow Pro is the ability to add noise. So if you check this box, this glow noise is going to only apply to wherever the border is. And we can see if I zoom way here, this is for YouTube's sake, you can see that noise taking place. You can change the noise type. You could change the blend mode on it and the amount. It's really up to you, but I just love the end result that this can give for your outer glow edges. And now there is one last effect I want to show you that I'm incredibly proud of, and that is the reflect effect. Let's go ahead and apply that, and you should immediately see it taking place here on our clip. I'll go ahead and hide Border Glow Pro, and if I just move this down, we can easily create a reflection. Let's drag up the blur amount. You'll see that as it gets further from our object, it blurs more, or we can change this over to uniform blur so everything's blurring at once. You can change it so the reflection is either underneath or it's on top. And if it's on top, I'll show you what that looks like. Now you can see here, it's above the image and this is behind the image. So you can get interesting different results using that. But you can also change the fall off distance. So let's go ahead and drag this way up. And now we're just barely getting part of the reflection here underneath. I absolutely love the end result this can produce. And of course, if I push play, those reflections are receiving all of the changes that are happening in the video above it. So this was a look at Picture-in-Picture 3.0. Hopefully these additions are helpful to those of you who have purchased this plugin. There's so much more that Picture-in-Picture can do that I wasn't able to cover in this video. So make sure you pick up the plugin using the links down below for $10 off for the next week or so. Haven't fully decided on the end date on that. And with that being said, I cannot wait to see you in the next one.